Day one of mandatory minicamp is wrapped up for the New Orleans Saints. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Girouard, and we're going to go through all the news, notes, injury updates, attendance, tryouts, everything that you need to know around your black and gold and mandatory practice that went down today. But before we dive in, gotta encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that way you can get minicamp and training camp news and updates all throughout the rest of the off season. We're currently sitting at 27,900 and, a handful of extra subs. But here's what the off-season schedule currently looks like. We've already wrapped up OTAs. No more organized team activities. No more stuff that's optional. Everything's mandatory. And that's where we find ourselves right now. Mandatory minicamp started today. It'll go through June 13th. Then we finally got the training camp dates or at least when they start, for the New Orleans Saints. It's going to be July 24th out in Irvine, California. The rookies should report in around July 21st. So I want to encourage you to subscribe for coverage for all of the offseason stuff. We've given you coverage all throughout each of these OTA sessions, and we're going to keep giving you videos throughout the offseason. So let's discuss the quarterback. Start with the most important position on the field. Derek Carr, obviously he was working with the ones, but in terms of the backup quarterback battle, it's actually kind of interesting how things shook out. Jake Haener was the QB2, and he did work with the twos, but he did give up some reps to Nathan Peterman, whereas Spencer Rattler strictly worked with the threes, and Peterman only took reps away from Haener. So it's interesting to see that the Saints offensive coaching staff is giving Rattler all of the reps with the threes, but still taking some snaps away from Jake Haener. I don't think that means they dislike Haener. I think that means they're just more so trying to give Rattler reps with an NFL team. So there are a couple notable absences for today. Brian Brzee, the defensive tackle, and Jawan Johnson, the tight end for the Saints. Both of them were not present today, but they weren't seen, but they were present. They were at team facilities, / they were sick, / Dennis Allen knew what was going on with them. And then obviously Ryan Ramczyk also was not available for practice today, but we got an injury update coming around him here in just a second. Kool-Aid McKinstry, the cornerback who's been dealing with some injuries, did not get active at OTAs. He was working off to the side, so it's good to see him finally getting some work, and it's also nice to see Dennis Allen's expectation of him being present and him working in individual drills was true. Now, it's also important to note that Dennis Allen did say that Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor will compete for the slot cornerback position. Where McKinstry will also compete is on the outside as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he shakes out throughout training camp and minicamp, because I think that he is an extremely tantalizing player, but I do believe as a rookie, it's kind of tough to just throw yourself in at the slot cornerback position. So I could expect Alontae Taylor to be the starter there, whereas Kool-Aid McKinstry is kind of the backup / rotational guy on the outside as well. But you pick a slot cornerback for me, Saints fans. Type KM for Kool-Aid McKinstry, type AT for Alontae Taylor. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say, because I know Saints fans absolutely know ball. So here's some injury news. The three biggest injury updates come for Ryan Ramczyk, Chase Young, and Cameron Jordan. And if you're sitting here saying, what the hell, Cam Jordan had an injury? Well, yeah, he was dealing with an ankle issue all year. But it's worth noting, he was working in team drills, and he only did stuff really at OTAs that was individual. But he got back to working with the team today. For Chase Young, obviously he's dealing with a neck injury. He's going to be seeing a doctor later this week, and we will have an update, a full update after this week, so be sure to subscribe for that. And then for Ryan Ramczyk, he's been dealing with that knee. There's virtually no cartilage left in his knee, unfortunately. Nothing has really changed. Dennis Allen saying that there's no timeline. He's not really progressing the way they want him to, but the expectation since, I'm not kidding, March or April has been Ramczyk probably won't play at least early in this season, likely at all, which is why we're taking a look at the offensive line group, because I believe this is how it's going to shake out. Obviously, Ramczyk will get bumped down. I think Josiah Ezerim will take over for the backup right tackle spot. Justin Huron could also challenge to make to be the number 2 for the right tackle position, but I think Talise Fuanga will stay on the left. Penning will stay on the right. That's how they had it going at OTAs, and it seemed to be working well. And I think Saldiveri will be the left guard. obviously because Andrus Peat is not around, so you're missing a whole left side of the offensive line there. Now, the defensive line is actually looking pretty solid. I will say this, no Brian Brzee makes me a little bit bummed. Not concerned, it makes me bummed just because I like watching him play. But Carl Granderson, I expect a big year from him. Nathan Shepard was back at practice today, so that's some good news there around the defensive tackle. But Chase Young, we knew that he was dealing with the neck injury. The news came out around that after he was signed to the New Orleans Saints. He got surgery not too long ago. He's recovering really well, and I do also want to add a note here. You see that asterisk next to Tano Passanio? I think that him being injured opens up the door for a guy like Isaiah Foskey to get a lot more run. I also think Trajan Jeffcoat or Peyton Turner could find themselves getting some reps in the defensive end rotation if they cannot have Tano Passanio ready to go throughout the regular season. Now let's talk about the wide receivers because, hey, this might be one of my favorite positions on the team. So Olave at minicamp, he's been doing a lot of stuff, but I kind of just picked for Olave and Rashid Shaheed the three best plays that I was able to take away and the observations that I saw online from all the great Saints media people out there like Ross Jackson, John Hendricks, Nick Underhill, Mike Triplett, Jeff Nowak. I mean, there's so many great ones out there. Chris Rusvoglu. There's a ton of them out there, so be sure to follow them all on social media, but also follow me as well. Derek Carr connected with Chris Olave on a deep fade for a touchdown, which was really, really nice. And then he also connected on a dig route for a big gain, which is really nice to see. And Derek Carr also connected with Chris Olave for a big-time gain against Marshon Lattimore in 7-on-7. So that's a pretty cool stuff to see right there. It's fun to see Chris Olave still dominating and still playing at a high level, and also, playing at a good level against one of the top cornerbacks in the league in Marshon Lattimore. Also worth noting for the wide receivers, we've been seeing a lot more work over the middle and on a lot of routes on the inside of the hash mark, so that is really, really good news. The Saints offense is finally starting to get back to having that identity of being intentional and being dangerous. Now, Rashid Shaheed at minicamp, he did get a connection from Derek Carr, on a dig for a nice gain. And then on top of that, maybe one of the plays of the day, Jake Haener, he connected with Shaheed on a really deep sideline pass. And then on top of that, hey, we all know the play. Shaheed, frickin' run. It works 100 out of 100 times. Several downfield plays for Rashid Shaheed, so it's nice to see them working on that, working on the route running, working on the chemistry and, the timing of everything and where the ball placement should be. So that's really, really nice stuff to see around the wide receivers. And in terms of Derek Carr, we talked a little bit about the quarterbacks a second ago, but Derek Carr does look good, and that's exactly what you should expect from an 11-year veteran a veteran entering his 11th, 12th year in the league. Derek Carr, he had big gains with multiple receivers. He's connecting with a lot of different guys, so that's really, really important, especially coming into year 2 with the Saints and in year 1 of this new offense. It's important to develop the chemistry, understand the timing, and have that ability to connect with any of your receivers at any point in time. It's important. So I really like to see Derek Carr playing well, but again, that's the expectation for a guy of his caliber. So how many touchdowns will Derek Carr throw in 2024? I want you to get in the comments section and let me know. Back in 2023, Derek Carr, he finished the season with 25 touchdowns. Do you think that he'll beat that? Do you think he'll have less? Or do you think he'll just match it? Let me know in the comment section. Now, there were a handful of minicamp tryouts. NFC South legend Russell Gage has spent time with the Buccaneers. He spent time with the Falcons. He was working out with the New Orleans Saints today. Camron Peterson, a defensive tackle out of Southern, also trying out with the Saints. Cameron Wire, the offensive tackle from Tulane, did try out as well. Jordan Smith and Roderic Teamer to round out the minicamp tryout. So I don't honestly think really any of these guys make the roster. Maybe Russell Gage makes it as a, low-end roster piece. Maybe he's a practice squad guy, kind of gets in the rotation. I also could see Cameron Wire making the roster too, potentially, just because, the offensive line always needs some help and they always need depth because it seems like there's always an injury there. All right. Special teams, special players, special plays, check. Darren Rizzi, the Riz God, he was talking about the new kickoff rule, so that's pretty cool, especially considering he was one of the guys who kind of, was at the forefront for this new movement in NFL special teams. He's saying that the whole roster is available for kick return, which is really, really cool, and especially on kickoff. I don't know what I was trying to say there. On kickoff and kick return, the whole roster will be available. So guys like Alvin Kamara, guys like Chris Olave, guys like Taysom Hill, they could return kickoffs, which is awesome. And Rizzy did say he's not going to use Kamara every time, but he will get involved. And also, on the kickoff team, that means some of these defensive players can get involved, like a Demario Davis, an Alontae Taylor, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Marshon Lattimore, Tyrann Mathieu. You can have some of these guys that are great tacklers be on the kick return or on the kickoff defense team, which is really, really cool. So I'm excited to see this new special teams rule. I'm excited about it in general for the NFL, but also to see how Darren Rizzi and the New Orleans Saints will get creative with it, especially with the weapons on the roster. But final thoughts for me on this video. It really does feel like the vibes around the team are extremely high. It feels like the morale is really different than what it was last year. The offense is really clicking at OTAs and at minicamp, which is something that you're not necessarily seeing as much of last year and when you had Pete Carmichael around. It feels like Clint Kubiak has really changed the culture for the New Orleans Saints, and it feels like that there's something special brewing. Something's in the air, something's in the swamp. I don't know what it is, but it feels like it could lead to a lot of success for the New Orleans Saints. I'm really excited to see how these competitions will go down throughout the rest of minicamp and training camp. But this is why you subscribe. This was the second video of the day. We're going to be going live tomorrow to discuss more minicamp updates. So don't forget to subscribe. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.